Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Uist You podcast. This is Julie Riesler. I am so grateful to be your host. And I must tell you that today, the guest that I have is a very special woman who is a dear wise woman, mentor, healer, spiritual advisor, someone that I have worked with personally. She has an incredible story and is one of the most genuine, authentic women that I've gotten to know. It is such an honor to introduce you to Leanne Taylor. I want to tell you a little bit about Leanne before you get to meet her. I've been so excited about this interview. I'm just letting you all know that for the whole day, all I could think about was tonight. So I'm going to take myself down a notch so I can actually share her background with you. Leanne Taylor is a spiritual mentor. She's the author of The Fragile Face of God and mother of 5 children, including 3 who were born with autism and Fragile X syndrome, a genetic disorder manifesting in profound mental impairment. With her extraordinary ability to see beyond the veil, she is helping thousands of people engage the divine firsthand and transcend their life's challenges. Through her periodical publication From the Light, called The Sacred Letter, and her inspired online community, Leanne brings sacred dialogues and higher teachings to the mainstream. She can be found at www.leannetaylor.com and facebook.com/Leanne Taylor Story. And we will have all the notes at the end with all of her information. It is my honor, my distinct pleasure. It gives me so much joy to introduce you, Leanne, to the world. You have been such a gift in my life, and I am just so excited to get in a conversation with you. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, you are welcome. And Julie, thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited for our conversation.
Awesome.
Lots of good things to talk about today.
We have so much to talk about. I'm so excited. I feel like I'm ready to fly to the moon. I'm so excited, which is not a bad thing to feel. So, one of the things, I read your book and followed through with your story, in addition to getting to have the privilege of working with you and working through some areas of my life. I want to start by really looking at the first question I always ask is about what is the youest you? What does that mean to you? And what does that look like in your life today?
I love that question. For me, it means the truest you. So the truest me would be living in a way that is very integrated with my spiritual identity. So I might call that my primordial identity, my spirit's identity, and living in a way that is integrated with, again, my truest self. And so that real part of me, because really I think what we kind of how we walk through this life as mortals, a lot of times we're not really in touch with our eternal self. And so being in touch with my eternal self keeps me continuously feeling connected, and it helps me to be a better human, I feel, in the way that I'm always seeking to understand circumstances and people, and to make realizations and to contribute in the best way, in the way that perhaps I can meet needs in the best way. Does that make
Beautiful.
sense?
Absolutely. I love what you said, especially, gosh, this idea of connecting to your eternal self. And for those that are listening, some might resonate and get that, and some may not. If you don't mind, just to say a little more about what that means to you and how you access that.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So the eternal me, the eternal us, would be that part of us that lived before we were born. That is to say, our spirit. So our spirit is eternal. And having lived before we came here, before we were born on this planet, that means that we have a whole identity outside of the persona that we have here. And so this eternal part of us is spirit. It is infinite. It had amazing beginnings. And we are highly evolved, highly intelligent, even before being born here. And so accessing that and tapping into that means a great deal of listening.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we talk about listening to God or listening to spirit, listening to our guides, but have we considered listening to our own spirit? right? And so some people might even consider this my consciousness, or my subconscious, or my conscience, that my higher self. It's basically listening to the spirit within us, that is always connected, never separate, that is full of wisdom and light and grace and understanding. And so having that higher attunement, right, that kind of that fresh connectedness, always being accessible, always tapping into that and having that intention daily.
Mm. Wow. Well, so, this is something I know for myself has been one of the most important things in my life is, I think in our society that, there's so much noise, learning to get quiet and listen to this. A lot of my life lessons have been around when I didn't listen and then learning to listen. I would love, I'm going to put a little star because I want to come back to this. I have questions about for those listening and just who want to learn how to do that and how to get in that higher attunement. So I'm giving a preview. We're going to come back to that because that, I can hear people listening like, how do I do that? I want to know how to do that. How do I access that? Before we go to those questions, your story is, I've read a lot of books in my life, and my husband can attest to this. I read it almost in one night. I like devoured it. I binge read your book. I mean, the amount of challenge that you went through, I can't get my head around it. And I'm wondering, the name is The Fragile Face of God, and I'm just going to show it so people can see it. It's called The Fragile Face of God. And there's your son right there.
Quinn, yes.
That's Quinn. Okay.
That's Quinn.
I was like, I think so, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you want to share from that, I just think what you dealt with 3 children with autism and Fragile X, and how you moved through that to where you are today. We talked about your USU, and it sounds like reading through that so much of who you are today was birthed out of that experience and that story. Would love to just, as much as you feel like sharing, it's quite an incredible story to be told.
All right, so let's do that. It's interesting. I think the most impactful things in our lives are the things we don't see coming, the things that we do not plan. And of course, the experiences that you're talking about are those things which I could not have planned. So first of all, I had no idea that I was the carrier of Fragile X syndrome. In fact, I'd never heard of it until my son was diagnosed at the age of 3. And by that time, my second son was already born. So it really was it was a genetic roller coaster. Really, in every sense, it was surreal. The life that I lived was very surreal. But here's this thing, Julie, that when life demands something extraordinary from us, we often meet that demand. And so I know people might think, oh, well, I could never have done that. But you would, and you could if you had to.
Yeah.
And so I honestly feel like the best, most brightest takeaways from those experiences are what was gleaned after the experiences. So really, I would say what began to birth after the exit of those extraordinary experiences, traumatic and also transcendent, both ends of that spectrum, Julie, both ends of that spectrum, the most transcendent otherworldly experiences and the most traumatic, devastating experiences. And Julie, I had those on a daily basis. And so my heart can attest that it was a profound strain to live that.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, I have come through with such a deepening understanding and appreciation for the value of the human experience. And especially, Julie, for the value of that which we do not plan, for that which seeks to teach us in most poignant ways in which we cannot ever forget. And so raising my children was a task. was a task. It was a serious multitask.
Yeah.
But my children are my greatest teachers. Absolutely. Hands down. Hands down. My children taught me. I'm the one with the special needs. And having come through that experience and continuing to learn from them in a whole new way, that's much more of a spiritual way now that we communicate spiritually, they truly are my teachers. And so, as you know, because you read the story, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but my life was saved through a very special guide, a very special person in my life who saved it. And miracles beyond the veil do occur, and orchestration is real, and divine intervention is a fact. And I'm here because of that. And so there's something more that I needed to give, something more I needed to accomplish in this life. And so I'm so grateful to have that opportunity. And I think that even this interview is part of that. This dialogue that we're having is a branch of that, what I'm here to do and to share. And so there's just so much there.
Wow. Well, one of the things you just said that I was really honing in on is it was unplanned. And I'm thinking for those listening, who have tough situations or experiences, maybe it's with your children or your family or some area of life. And it's like you said, unplanned. You didn't know you carried that gene. And then to have 3 out of your 5 children back to back. I don't want to give it away, but it was, I literally felt like I was next to you, and I was like holding my breath some of the times reading about the experience of raising, especially 3 out of the 5 with serious, the serious level of autism, nonverbal. I have a stepdaughter who's autistic, and I just know a little bit, but not what you went through. And you talked about it being unplanned, and what I heard was that you not only rose to the occasion, but the gift has been them. They are your teachers. And you said, I love this. It was traumatic, and it helped you to transcend anything you knew. So I got this image of like this enormous gift with the enormous, probably, what is the word? Well, tax on you. In some ways, it also gave you this enormous gift. And one of the things I remember you talking about, if it's okay to mention, is you started out about your relationship with your mother. And God, it's going to make me cry. It was so beautiful reading about your story about her and taking a bath with her and her putting bows in your hair. I felt like I was there with you. And how she, if it's okay to share, passed away when you were young, I think 8, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Yeah, my son just passed 8 and is 9, and I couldn't imagine that. And that in part of this gift of transcending, you were able to connect with her, and would be so wonderful if you're willing to talk a little bit about what that's been like and how that occurred. That sort of, to me, seemed like such a gift, and that's one of the gifts that came out of your very intense experience.
Yes, I'd love to share, if it's all right.
Yeah.
I'd love to share the experience I had when I was 17, when I was in my mother's presence. And so, as you said, Julie, she died of breast cancer when I was 8 years old. My mother had just turned 32. It was the day after Christmas, 1977. And to be honest, I didn't have a lot of, I would say, closeness with my mother in the way that would make an 8-year-old grieve. And so the years went by, and in my teen years, I began to sort of have kind of a spiritual awakening. And when I was 17 years old, one night while I was sleeping, I was in the presence of this beautiful girl, young girl. In fact, she looked a lot like me. Just this face that was full and flawless, and her hair was pulled back, but I could tell her hair was white. and just kind of like a glowing, kind of a frosted, almost like a frosted silhouette kind of a look. And at first, I did not know who this was, but there was no feeling of confusion or nothing that was disconcerting. It was absolutely peaceful. But I did not recognize this girl. And then after a moment, I realized, not recognized, I realized who it was. It was my mother, Carol.
Wow.
And I was in her presence. And immediately when I realized who it was, she started conveying to me her love for me. Now, this was not verbal. It was not like you and I are conversing right now, speaking. It was totally different. It was feeling. It was her conveying her feelings of love for me. So I felt her love for me, and it came in just waves, just these continuous waves of love. And it included such nuances as I'm so proud of you, I love you so much, I miss you so much, I'm so proud of the woman that you're becoming, the new awakening that you're having, it's right and good for you, keep going with that, you're a beautiful young woman, and you'll always be my daughter. All of these things conveyed in these waves of tremendous emotion, just tremendous sensations that my whole being felt. And as this was happening, I began communicating with her in the same way. I knew how to, instinctively. I knew how to do this. And so I began communicating to her, I love you. I miss you so much, Mother. I'm so grateful to see you finally. It's been so hard without you. Thank you for coming to me. And as this was happening, we're both communicating this way. I'm watching the experience. So I'm not only having the experience, I'm watching the experience, almost like a third person panorama. So fascinating. And then it is conveyed to me that the eyes of the spirit can see every angle simultaneously. Like, in order to get close to something, you don't have to move close to something. The eyes of the spirit have that capacity. And so it was such an experience of totality. There's no words. I'm so clumsy in the way that I'm expressing it to you, because we don't have language to truly express what it's like. But it was life-changing, Julie. It was life-changing.
Wow.
Right before the end of this experience, she spoke one word to me, and that word was farewell. And that was it.
Wow.
But I've never forgotten that experience. And it wasn't until years later, when I was about 33, that she came to me again, and we picked up our relationship. And so that was a huge hallmark for my life at that time. Huge, huge hallmark. But you know, Julie, I learned something. A mother's love does not end at death, and a mother's role does not end at death. Relationships continue. They continue, but of course they would. Of course they would.
Wow. Wow. Can you say a little more about picking up at 33 and then what's transpired for you in connecting with her? Because you go into the book about it, and I'm thinking for those listening, and we'll get to, because of course I have the questions. I can almost hear people listening saying, how do you do that? How do we do that? How do we, it's like I can hear the curiosity, because I'm curious too. It's so beautiful what you're saying, and so affirming. And I'm wondering, so 33 till today, that's, I don't know how many years that is to sum up, but just what that's like today, what that relationship has been like since 33 to now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'll tell you something. It's a very different relationship. So when she came to me when I was 33, it was a different experience. It was a different encounter. I was awake. So when I was 17, it was while I was sleeping. And I was in her heavenly presence. When I was 33, I was fully awake, and she was in my presence. So a very different experience. We actually had a 3-hour dialogue, a 3-hour exchange.
Wow.
And during this exchange, my whole life had just been massively transformed in that year. massively transformed. And so this conversation was was sort of a explanation. What had happened, why it had happened, and the divine orchestration that she had conducted that I did not know about. She wanted me to know her part in the massive transformation that had just happened. And so she explained that to me. She also explained to me every question I had about my sons and my daughter and their disability. She explained to me about my children's premortal identity. She explained about, and I don't want to give it all away because I really want readers to have the full experience of the book.
Yeah.
But she answered a lot of questions that had still been painful and unanswered.
Yeah.
And she clarified for me why my life had gone the way it had gone. And so she sort of gave context to pivotal events in my life, including her death. And she revealed something about her death that none of us knew. And it changed the way that I felt about my mother's death, and it changed the way I saw my mother's life. It also profoundly impacted and has impacted my life and my daughter's lives. And so in that conveyance, she taught me a very important principle about generational patterns and how important it is, the stewardship that we have for our children, for our posterity, to live a life of fulfillment, to live a life right, and that what we do not select and what we forfeit carries on after us. And so that was one of the most important things that she conveyed to me in that message. But since that time, oh my gosh, so many dialogues. And I've written them. They've been on paper. I call them sacred writings. And so these are divine dialogues with my mother's spirit. And it's been just volumes of them. Things that she had taught me about her premortal identity and about my premortal identity. Our histories together, my life and the purpose of my life. And she's been every bit of a mother in terms of even like projects that I'm working on, like for example, the book and other books and other projects. She literally has been a ghostwriter. She has been my creative consultant. She has been my business consultant. She has been my personal relationship consultant. She has been the grandmother to my children, the grandmother, the grandchildren. See that in ways that she couldn't be if she were still here. And how is that? Because she knows exactly what we're going through. Every minute knows exactly where we're at. And so she gives wisdom and guidance and love and insight and power through that veil. And by that means, are we able to have the fullest of a mother-daughter relationship that is really exquisite, Julie.
Wow. That is what's coming to me is the profound sacred connection that it goes beyond what our human minds can think of. I think it's not her and physicality anymore, but it's even more like I'm listening and, I'm thinking, gosh, I want that. That's incredible. It's like a board of, people that have got your back in the highest form. And it's your mother.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. What more? And what could be more natural? Julie, it's not strange. And I don't know if you're ready in the conversation to talk about this, but there's nothing more natural than having relationships and communicating with those who have passed on. Nothing more natural. And including those who have yet to be born. So let us say your unborn children, right? And coming up to that point of a woman's life, preparing to bear children, having those conversations with the spirits that are hers, that are coming to her.
Yeah.
And so this kind of familial connection is so supreme. It is so correct. And Julie, there is nothing more natural than this. And trust me, everyone can have it. Everyone can have it. And truthfully, Julie, that's why I never use the term psychic the
Yeah.
medium, because that sort of has a weird conveyance of somebody special who's able to do those strange things. Julie, we all can do it.
Mm.
There's nothing different between you and me that allows me to do it and you not to.
Right.
We all can. And that's what I teach people. And they do, because they can. And so, of course, those on the other side are waiting for us to just ask, to tap, to inquire, and then to listen and to receive, because the help is there, Julie. So much help is there. But Julie, if we don't ask,
Right.
and it's up to us, that's our part. Our part
Mm.
is the asking. Ask is the task. But if we don't ask, we're not availing ourselves of that very wise, amazing help and guidance.
Wow. So this whole realm of, connecting with, I think of it sometimes as infinite intelligence or family that have passed on. There's all different ways to relate. For me, this is something that has been very important and powerful in my own life, and I've had feelings before. I recently had a dream. I didn't get to meet my grandfather, but I was named after him. I was due on his birthday, and I had this exquisite dream. I had just created a new website and logo, and for some reason, all I could see was his clothes were hanging up, and his shirt was my logo. The whole thing was this beautiful gold logo on his shirt. It's hard to explain, but I had this feeling of he is with me. Like he is so loving me with me. It was so profound. And I for me, a lot of times it's signs, it's dreams.
Right. And so, Julie, not only was that dream of him, but that dream was from him.
Yeah.
That was from him. And dreams actually are one of the ways that they communicate with us. And sometimes we feel like it's a dream because we're sleeping, but we're actually present there, or they're present here with us. So absolutely.
It's bringing tears to my eyes. It was so powerful. I had another one. My grandmother, who was married, I did get to know her, and I was in this big closet, and I found these beautiful leather gloves. She was very classy, elegant lady. And it's funny, she always had black, but they were dark green. And the heart chakra, if you know anything about energy systems, is green. It hit me. I said, I could feel her in that closet. I could feel her around me when I woke up. These two dreams, one happened 3 years ago, one happened a couple months ago, they were so profound for me, so powerful. And I'm just sharing that I'm not necessarily at the level where you are, but I love what you said about this is so natural. And I agree with you, and I believe in this 100%. And part of why I wanted to share you in this is because, and for some, it's okay if this seems, it may feel like I don't know how to do this. I've never had that. That's okay. Wherever you are is okay. But my sense is that when we're open to it, having that, I would think the beginning space is just that open mind, perhaps. And maybe you can talk about, for those that are listening, that on the spectrum of, I don't know about this or not sure I believe it, to, I not only believe it, but I really want to learn how to do this and learn how to connect, because I will tell you, probably the most important thing in my life is listening. And frankly, there is a whole team of help. I see it as like my love team. I got to tell you what, I don't do life alone. I had a whole physical team, like human being physical team. And I realized, holy mackerel, there's this whole just loving energy that's, loving me, that's helping me, that sees what I want. And for the greater good of me and everyone is there to guide me. And I'm kind of like, bring it on. I would love more support. Are you kidding me? So you were talking about your mom, and she's like your business executive and your lawyer and your wise person and she's everything, because she can get that perspective. And so maybe just to share for those on the spectrum, that whole spectrum of where to begin, what are some things that we can do? It's a natural thing. I will tell you, it has become much more. Uh, I've had, I think, strong intuition before, but it's becoming more natural to stop and say, okay, I'm going to pause and just ask. And I kind of joke, I have a lot of laughter around. I said, okay, anybody around me would like to show up, like speak up. I'm listening. So for me, I use humor because I like it.
Yes, and they love it too.
It makes my whole day. I don't know. It's a fun, we've got a lot of laughing going on. I don't know exactly who, but I know it's a whole group of us. Probably,
Yes, a
yeah.
team. Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
team.
So
All
maybe
right. So,
just, yes, I want to hear from you, not me, from
okay.
you.
All right. So, it's actually easier than most people think. And I teach that it starts with receptivity. So,
Yeah.
enabling your receptors, becoming more receptive, because it's all about receiving. Everything that spirit has for us is about us learning how to receive it. Absolutely. And so one of the first things that spirit taught me, and so I'll teach this, one of the first lessons was about the palm.
Mm.
And it was actually about open palm prayer. And so I'll just kind of hold my palm like this. And I was taught to pray with my palms like this. And so this was very different from how I had been raised learning how to pray, which was a very closed body language, eyes closed, arms folded, head down. Like you would never talk to someone like that ever. That's completely closed. And so spirit taught me, open the hands, open the palms. And so with that, open the eyes and open the mouth, which is very interesting because the people who are listening to this interview right now have their eyes open, have their ears open, and have their heart open. And because of that receptive poise, they are able to receive and learn and listen. It's no different, Julie. It's no different. We open the palms because that actually makes it easier to hear. Ears open, eyes open. Yes, we hear better with the eyes open. And mouth open means that when we converse through the veil, we converse with the divine or my mother or whoever it is you would seek an audience with. When we speak aloud, it actually gives more power to the dialogue. And it actually avails you to speak words that are inspired. So I want to give you kind of a special, neat little experience right now that was not in the book. And it's something that's not really public, but I'm going to share it. I feel prompted to.
Okay, fun.
So shortly after Spirit began teaching me about the open palm prayer and establishing a sacred space, which I did, which I'm in right now, as you can see, I came into my sacred space one morning and it was at dawn. And so the sun was just barely coming up. And as soon as I knelt down to pray, a poem formed in my mouth.
Mm.
I spoke it, one word, one line at a time as it came, as it was given to me, like taking dictation. And I knew as it was coming and as I was speaking it that I was being entrained to take divine dictation. This was a whole new experience for me. Now, I had had a moment here and there through the years of prayer where I knew the words that I was saying in my prayer were being given to me to say. They were elevated. They were inspired. They were not my usual kind of dialogue for prayer. It was more than me. This poem was that entire start to finish entire thing. The most beautiful poem, meaningful, personal to me, directly from the divine, and it came from my mouth.
Wow.
And so part of listening, Julie, is speaking, because when we speak, we revelate. And do not open the mouth. The mouth is a channel, Julie. The mouth is a channel.
Wow.
And so the palm is a channel. The heart right here is a channel, and the mouth is a channel. So is the eye a channel for vision. See that? Really and truly, the whole human body is an instrument for greater spiritual expansion. Now, I know we don't think that. We don't think of it, but of course it would be. Would it not be?
Right.
Of course it would be. So that was really a special experience, such a beautiful, transcendent experience. But I'm telling you, that part of that listening is also the speaking of it. And so really opening the heart to whatever it is the divine would have you know, whatever the divine would say to you. Oftentimes I write. And so this is the other thing that I was taught and that I teach people who are just starting out. So we do what's called sacred writing. Basically, it's journaling or praying with a pen in your hand. So prayer with a pen in your hand. So you would write your question, your part, you would write that. And then you would write the word divine or whatever, God or whatever, and then leave a space for the answer. And then you pen the answer as it's given to you. As you listen for the answer and it comes, you write it down. And actually, the act of writing facilitates greater listening. And so question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, divine dialogues, back and forth, two-way conversations with the divine or with whoever it is that you seek an audience with. Let me give you an example. You might think this is extraordinary, but there's no reason why it can't happen for anybody. So I had a question for my daughter. She wants to be an animator, an artist. And so I had a question about the best course of action to help her get prepared for that career. And so I sought out Da Vinci, and I had a written dialogue with Da Vinci, and he gave me wonderful counsel for my daughter. Why not? Why not tap those experts on the other side? Do you not realize that your progress is of great interest to them? That your expansion is directly linked with their expansion. That as you transcend, so do they transcend. That is why when you say your team, we're all this great team, happy to help you and eager to help you. Exactly, Julie. Because their progress is distinctly tied to your progress.
Wow.
And they want nothing more than to see us succeed joyfully, with compassion, with transcendence, with knowledge, with wisdom, with power. And with their help, we can. And with their help, Julie, we are as a human family.
Wow. I have like 50,000 questions and I'm going to hone them in because this topic is just, it's so rich. And I will just share really briefly, this is very personal, but so I was raised, if anyone was in the era of Stuart Smalley, the skit, you know, where he looked in the mirror and on Saturday Night Live and said, I'm good enough and I'm smart enough and gosh darn it, people love me. That was my mom. That is my mom. And so with that, she was very into Louise Hay. I grew up with Louise Hay in my ears and reading her and seeing her quotes all over the place. And she's one of the teachers, wise women, healers. I really read a lot from her, and I used to listen to her, How to Love Yourself More. And it's interesting, when she transitioned and passed on about a year ago, I just, like you were talking about Da Vinci, I realized, I was really sad to hear it, but I had this instinctive, this is kind of crazy to say out loud, but I had this instinctive like, oh, yay, like she's going to be with me now. Like I can tap into, she had an extraordinary ability to really, I think, help humanity with healing and love. And so there have been many, many people like that. I just really resonated with her. And so she's somebody, sometimes I'll call upon her when I'm writing, or my grandfather, or, you know, he was just, everyone loved him and a magnet and successful, but just so loved. And so that's been something that I've started to do since you and I connected. And I've got to say that it's, you know, for those listening, just to try it, it is extraordinary. And to not, you know, edit yourself. I actually, before our session, I did some sacred writing. I always am curious about how to eat well for my body. And I realized I'm going to ask my team, my guides, how am I supposed to eat these days? I'm feeling a little confused. It was so beautiful. I just, you know, the way I do it is I pose a question, I do a little cue, and I say, okay, love team, this is my question. And then I pause and I do a little heart and I use that as my response. And then I wait. And there's something about writing. And I would say to those listening, if you just to try not to be to not judge and just let whatever comes up. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, just keep writing. Even if you think it's
Right?
your own thoughts, just keep writing. Keep writing.
Keep writing. So I don't know if that's, I've learned that from you, Leanne. I've learned that from you, and I'm sharing that because it's been so powerful. And it's, the more I do it, the more it becomes not only natural, but what I'm craving. So I'll sometimes just stop when I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed or not sure, breathe. And I have journals in my car, and I always have a journal on me. I have like 50 journals all over the place. And so anyhow, that sacred writing was just learning that with you has been unbelievably powerful. And so that's something I think when people are listening, it's a great place to start to ask that question, whatever it is.
Whatever it is. And you know what, Julie, there's nothing too insignificant to ask. Ask anything. Ask
Right.
about your financial questions. Ask
Right.
about relationships. Ask about your health. Ask about something that happened in your past. Ask anything.
Wow. Wow. One of the things I can hear people say, well, how do you know? How do you know what your response? And the thing, and I'm curious for you, maybe before I answer it, because I've started to just, I get a feeling around it, but those that are saying, how do I know? Is that just me, or is that me plus? Or what if it's just me answering? How do you?
You know when you read it back. In fact, I think I want to share a little. Can I share just because I
Oh
haven't
my
had my
gosh.
notebook right here?
Yeah.
You know when you read it back because you realize, oh, those aren't my words. That did not come from me. That's just too beautiful. Okay. All right. So here I'm gonna read just a little. So we do what's called sacred writing showers, and I host these for people all over the world. And we do it just like we're doing you and I right now virtually. And so we always have a prompt question, and it's different every time. And so this prompt question was, Divine, are there any movements I am ready to make that would expand me? See that?
Oh.
And then here's the answer. There are many, my home, Leanne. And so thus there is more grace being set up, that your perfect passage toward full awakening is wide open. Boom, right there. Like right there. That's not me.
Right.
I know the divine voice.
Yeah.
That's the divine message. And so there's a lot of things. Okay, and this is so sweet. And oftentimes, so often, yes, the divine has a sense of humor. So much fun. And the most creative use of words, the most creative, eloquent use of words. I contend your great way of motion. I can be turbo for your movement, making it all supremely efficient for a wide volume of passages.
Wow. Wow.
Isn't that neat?
That's so neat. Mine doesn't sound like that yet, but I do have well, I didn't bring mine down to read, but it doesn't sound like my voice. I will say I read it and I'm like, or it's very calm and wise. It's like, oh, just be silent and we'll show you. I get a lot of like, Julie, they're basically saying, calm the F down, slow down, and we will, girl, you're
No.
going 5.
And they speak to you in the exact way that you need to hear it. And this is what
Oh,
else I found.
yeah.
Depending on who you're talking to, will speak differently. So like my mother's voice is different than that. And I communicate with Quinn and Shale's voices as well. And so their voice is different than that was the divine. The divine speaks to me very, very eloquent.
Yeah.
There'll be different people on the other side that speak to me very uniquely in their own voice.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned Quinn and Shale. They're not on the other side.
Right.
Right. But Quinn and
Right.
Shale are nonverbal.
Right.
They are full adults and they have never spoken a word. And so when we kind of bridge that veil, our first communication via the spirit, that was my first dialogue ever with my sons, ever. And Quinn was 18. 18 was the first time my son spoke to me. And so when we talk, we do the same. We write. I write, and then they come and they speak to me. But they've also come to me here in this space.
Wow.
Their spirits have been here with me. And so they have their own unique voice. And in fact, a lot of times when they communicate with me, they speak in one voice. So it's like a shared voice, a shared message, like one message, one voice, both of them combined. So it's very interesting in that way.
Wow.
And I think you find, if I just could mention really quick, how you just said your guides will say we would have you, be still. there's always when there's a group like that, there's always like a spokesperson who will speak for the group. Like I found that with all of my groups of guides, there will always be like a spokesperson who will speak on behalf of the group, in that way that you're getting as well.
That's so great. One of the things that comes to mind that I don't know if we'll get to go really into, but thinking you were talking about it's so natural. And one thing, for those that have read anything about quantum physics or energy and understanding, there's just so much I think we don't understand in terms of how, if you look at it, we're all vibration. I mean, we're cells that are moving, literally. I've actually tried to read like quantum physics for dummies type of books because I'm not, I mean, I failed physics. It wasn't my subject, but I'm so fascinated by this topic of the idea of, and we can feel it. You can feel when you're in your flow state or not. And so just to put some context, I think to me, what started to kind of come together was realizing just because you can't see it, right, doesn't mean, and you talked about the veil, and I love that term, just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not right here, right now with us. It's not there's vibration that exists that is not, we can't see with our naked eye in this plane. And so I'm just curious with kind of piercing that veil. I love that wording. Are there other things that we can do to start to be able to kind of pierce that veil?
Okay. Honestly, your desire to have that and to be able to do that is a huge propulsion. Desire is the fire. So having the desire and then allowing yourself to open to those availabilities. And so we talk about being available. We talk about being accessible. We talk about being listening for the answer. We talk about having someone on the other side who, like my mother, who I can readily identify with. So for some people, God or an angel or the divine seems very abstract, and they don't,
Right.
maybe there's not that context for them. So
Right.
then I would recommend to think on someone that that you can personally identify with, who is on the other side, who has passed on, and to focus on that person. Now realize something, and hear me now. Just by your thinking on them draws them near. Just by your thinking of them draws them near. They know. And so in that way, you already call them. So put your focus on someone who you can easily identify with.
Wow.
You know the gender of this person. You know their personality. You know them. Reach out to that person and ask a question. Is there something I need to know in my life? Is this decision the right decision? Those kinds of questions. How am I doing? What message do you have for me? Anything like, even just an open-ended question. What would you have me know? Please advise. This is how I'm feeling right now. Please advise. I love those because those two things specifically are what the divine taught me to say if I don't have a specific question. This is how I'm feeling right now. Please advise. Or what would you have me know? Because I'll tell you something. You may not think to ask the right question because Spirit has a whole lot to tell you. And so for you to say that, what would you have me know? It leaves it open for Spirit to convey to you something you need to know, but which you would not think to ask. Wow. And so even this, Julie, like sometimes, people will say, okay, I'm going to ask a question and then listen for an answer. But I would say to you, listen for the question. Listen for the question that you may ask rightly, because Spirit does have a lot to tell you that you need to know. And if you do not think to ask, Spirit can only convey according to the question that you ask. And so listen for the question.
Oh, wow. I'm relating this. A lot of my journey was around lack of self-worth and self-love. It's kind of part of what I feel I'm here to help, live out myself and teach. I think that it's something, when I started to feel love for who I really am, it's allowed me to have a whole deeper love for humanity. It's like this healing elixir. It's just beautiful. And it's funny, the question I'm literally putting this together right now. The question that I started to form, the new question, when I started to realize all those stories I had about myself, there was no truth to them, that who I really am, who we all are, by the way, not just me, we all are of love, I believe, that frequency and that light. And started to ask, how can I love myself more? How can I show more love to myself? How do I do that? How can I show more love to others? But especially for myself, because for me, I was fine showing it to you and others, but it was myself. And that question, I'm realizing, I just started asking that. And I just naturally would I didn't always write it, but that new question shifted the relationship with myself, I believe. I don't know if this is making any sense, but
it is.
It's reminding me of, it's like that open-ended question. And for those who struggle with self-love or, judgment, or it's like, that could be a question, is show me, how do I love myself? Can you show me? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, when we get off, I'm doing some sacred writing on that and some other, I'm so curious. I always have questions.
Yes.
But what I'm hearing you say really is, number one, you talked about that receptivity, that being open, that being in that receptive mode. And then the speaking aloud and the listening. You can use sacred writing, asking these open-ended questions. I love that this is how I'm feeling. Please advise, ... Or what would you have me know? Those two questions, those listening, those could be your questions. If you don't know where else to go, that could be where you start. And then the desire. So for some listening, it may not be a desire, and that's fine. I know, I was thinking when you said that, those at the amusement parks where they I think you like hit the ball and it goes up, it shows like light, moderate, intense, super high. And I'm like, right away I saw my desire. I'm like, wow, my desire is up to like the top. It's red and it's flashing.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I was like, ding, ding, ding. That's for me. So some of you listening, you might have that desire. And I love that that's all you need. When you think of, you were saying that, you can think of a loved one that's passed on. And the moment you put that consciousness out there, it's what I'm hearing you say, that they are drawn to you.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. They know right when you're thinking about them. In fact, when my mother came to me when I was 33, you know what she said? The first thing she said, I've been on your mind a lot lately. You've been thinking a lot about me lately.
Oh.
And I had been. You've been thinking a lot about me lately.
Wow.
Boom.
Wow.
There she was. Yes. And you know what's funny? A few minutes ago, you had said something like, most people, or maybe people haven't had this experience yet, but I can tell you something, Julie. Everyone has.
Yeah.
They just didn't know they did.
Oh, beautiful.
We've all had a visitation. We have all been inspired. Julie, we have all been surrounded by that infinite guidance. We have all had audience with those beyond the veil. Every one of us, Julie, has.
Right.
We just maybe didn't know it.
Right. Wow. Another question. I mean, so for those listening, I said to Leanne, so for this one, I'm like not watching the clock because this is just such a rich, in-depth, delicious conversation. And I mean, I could stay on for 5 hours talking to you, because this happens to be, this is, as I said, my desire is way up there. And I think others listening, hopefully this is just so fascinating. And I think there's so many of us that are curious, like, how do we connect? I'm curious about the notion of signs. That's something in my life, maybe because of my humor and just I like confirmation, and I can talk about that. But curious about your thoughts about signs and asking for them and where that falls into this, because I'm sure there are those that are asking, okay, how do I get a confirmation? Can I look for a sign? Can I ask for a sign? Yeah.
Okay. This is good. It kind of brings up two different tenets, which I'm going to tie them together. Okay. The first thing is this about signs or evidences or show me something. Do not base your trust. Do not wait for a sign in order to devote. First devote. And this is how it works. First give, then receive. That's how it works. First give, then receive. So when I ask for, please show me something that will let me know that I'm on track, or please show me something for joyfulness because I'm feeling so heavy today.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, the reason why you would seek an evidence, and I would call it an evidence rather than a sign.
Yeah.
An evidence, and really the evidence is to confirm.
Yeah.
Is to confirm, not to dangle your investment on a sign, but as an evidence to confirm what you already trust, what you already believe. But absolutely yes, absolutely yes. First of all, everything in the natural world is an evidence. Everything in the natural world, everything, if we have eyes to see, is an evidence. But yes, extraordinary coincidences can show up that are, of course, are not coincidences. Things that are to show you specifically, take note. Take note. This is to let you know a message that I have for you. This is to let you know you're right on track. This is to let you know this is important and you need to pay special attention to that. Even on the radio, it could be a song. It could be, I remember one time I was listening to talk radio, and it was something very specific that I was pondering, that I was meditating on. And as the host was talking, it was the strangest thing. His words, the audio was going in and out, and the only words that I heard that were full volume was the exact answers that I needed. The exact answers. It was uncanny. And the words that were not full volume didn't play in. It was so interesting. I've had that happen with songs before. Like exact, I call it God's playlist. Like he literally gave me a playlist. And so like messages can come in all different ways. It can come through the mouth of a friend. It could come through a movie, a song, a butterfly. It could come through the numbers on the clock. Messages and evidences can come in so many ways, but are we watchful? Are we watchful? Are we listening? See, that is the heart, this space, like always tuning in, always live in that place. Live in that place of attunement. Be watchful, be listening, abide there. And you will miss nothing.
I'm just, one of the things I've noticed, because this has become something I've always been, I think I did this without knowing. I had a lot of, let me take a step back. Part of what I notice is that when I'm open, when I'm receptive, when I'm tuning in, part of the way I know that it's that confirmation, that evidence, is there's a feeling of, it just feels good and it feels connected, and I feel, sometimes I get goosebumps. Sometimes I just feel this peace, like, wow. And I'm laughing because a lot of my evidence, for some reason, and it may be because I expect it or it's just happened that way, a lot of it comes on the road when I'm driving, with license plates, with signs, I mean, literal signs, and on the radio. It's so interesting. The more that I seem to, and I'm curious for those listening too who've experienced this, the more I ask and want to have that evidence, and I love it. Sometimes it's a feeling, or I'll hear something, or like you said, a friend will say something and it's just, oh, got it. Like it's added an element of joy and playfulness to my life. Like just by the quest of kind of being open and looking for it, which goes back to that desire and the receptivity, which I had not put together. It's really fun to get on the road. I mean, I know it's uncanny the amount. I mean, I have friends that I actually am like, you'll never believe what I just saw. Like literally the words exactly. I mean, I seem to find all the cars with those vanity plates that say things that are really meaningful, that somehow all the time. I mean, all the time. And so it can change a whole morning, when I'm feeling a little ornery or tired or whatever, overwhelmed. And it's just, for me, it's been so joyful to feel connected.
Because you're looking, because you're seeking, you're knocking, that's why those messages come to you.
Yeah.
Because that which you seek, you find.
I love that.
And I know you're avid, and you're truly, your soul is so invested.
Yeah.
And that is why your life is just adorned with such beautiful helps and
Mm.
evidences.
And that's why this is so perfect as a segue. That's why I wanted to do this session, because honestly, I've had so many beautiful, miraculous unfoldings and lots of dark moments. Don't get me wrong, like you were saying. Through those, though, the honestly, what came for me out of some very dark moments were the ability to tune into a knowing and a connection. It's been one of my biggest gifts. And I wanted to do this interview for many, many reasons. I also adore you, and your story is just incredible. And for those that want more meaning and connection in their life, this is for everybody. Like you said, I really believe that we're all, if there's the desire, if not, then that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think for a lot of us, we're looking for a deeper feeling, connection, meaning, knowing. I love knowing there is a team. For me, this is what I believe. There's a team, seriously, this amazing team that is like in love with me and has got my back and has my highest good and that of everyone I want to serve and help. And now, if I'm not in the receptive mode, then that's a little bit more challenging to hear it. But it's, if I'm noticing for me, if I can have that, you have that at a very extraordinary level, but it's there for everybody. And so
It is.
thank you for sharing ways to do this, because it's added so much depth and just enjoyment to my life. It kind of, I'm like, I want to live a lot longer because I just want to see what's going to happen. This is so fun.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
fun. For those that want way more and want to dive in with you, and I mean, you've just been an incredible gift in my life, and you're a light, and, we've worked together and helped me so much to just look at different areas of my life that I want to understand or enhance. For those that I'm sure are going to want to find you and work with you and learn more with you and from you, the best way, I'm assuming, would be your website and Facebook.
Right. To my website, and people can book a private mentoring session where we talk one-on-one with any questions whatsoever, where they need help, or even just like you said, strengthening their spiritual receptivities, coming into that higher attunements, which is also what I teach. And then I also do what's called a spiritual apprenticeship. And in the fall of this year, I'll be starting up again teaching a course series. And this is where people come and I teach them how to do what I do. And guess what? They do it.
So
And they
awesome.
all do it. And so it can be learned. Yes, it can be learned. And this is really my message, is that all people can do this. In fact, it's our natural state.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the website has some wonderful things. Also, Facebook has some wonderful things on my Facebook page. We also do, again, what I call a sacred writing shower, which is where anyone can come in and grab a notebook, and we're like a 45-minute, we do it in the evening, we do this kind of thing, a video, and we have a prompt question, and then we write for 15 minutes, and then we share with
Oh,
each
wow.
other. And so everyone benefits from everyone's message, and it's so affirming to have that, this is from the divine, this is a message, it's not just my own thoughts. And so we do that to strengthen our sacred writing skills, and to come into that place of being affirmed that we're right on track with that sacred writing, and keeping those lines of communication regular and consistent.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
Beautiful. One of the things I know and I love is that regardless of and those listening, your religion, your background, this is like, to me, the fabric that connects all of us transcends any of that. It's our humanity. It's that, as you said, our spirit, our connectedness, that, I believe we're all from the same love source. And I just love that it's for anyone who has the desire and interest. I will so be in that fall spiritual apprenticeship. Anyone who wants to do it, I'll be there with you. And I would say, for those tuning in today, The Fragile Face of God, your book is exquisite. it was profound. I keep it by my bedside, and actually, towards the back, you have some incredible the wisdom you share about what you got. I'm opening to it now. Actually, I earmarked it
From my mother. Mm-hmm.
from your mother. I feel like your mother has been my mother now. Like I've been so grateful to learn from her, and really recommend this to anyone listening. It is a fantastic book, and you'll devour it. You can't put it down. And it's true. It's your life. It's your, you know, it's such an honor to have you, and thank you for just so graciously sharing who you are, and stepping into this light and this place. I feel like this planet could use, in a positive way, so many more of us that are tuned in and open and loving and receptive, because it's a different way to do life. That's my experience.
Yeah, it's kind of the fast track to evolution, really, and to a transcended planet. But you know what's so great, Julie? More and more and more are coming home, right here, home to this space, our inner home,
I love
and
it.
finding that connectedness. And it really is what I call a new dawn. And so it's just the numbers are growing, and the energy and the joy of that is growing. And thank you so much for your blessed opportunity to converse with you and to ignite the light and bring that to more people. And so you yourself are doing amazing, great work. And I know you're one of those joyful souls that, yes, the world definitely needs more of.
Thank you so much. What an honor. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you. It's been such a delight. Truly, my cheeks are hurting from smiling. That's how I know.